This game was played in Freestyle chess finals that's happening in South Africa. With the white pieces, we have Arjun Erigaisi facing off against Magnus Carlsen, and this is going to be an epic matchup. They have faced off each other in number of times. I mean, they have faced off first in, I think that was the last freestyle event, and Arjun was able to get a win, and he has also beaten him in Norway chess that happened in 2025. So again, Magnus would definitely not take Arjun lightly, but let's see what Arjun is capable of doing with the white pieces against Magnus Carlsen. He goes for b4. Never a move you're gonna play in a million years in a classical match, but freestyle you can try to go for these crazy openings. Hey, just e5, now just going for g4 even. So seems to be an inaccuracy. That's not the case. It's just, the preparation. But now just comes f6. We have bishop to g2, just h5 now, and here just g captures on h5. We have queen captures, so getting the queen out early definitely, I mean, not a good idea, but in these types of setups it's fine. E3 was played, knight to e7 now, and just knight to e2, and now we have knight to f5 just developing, and hey, knight to g3 was played. Also f4 is also an idea, but if f4, then you have to be careful about knight to h4, and you don't want to lose the bishop pair, so knight to g3, but then you just go for the trade, and that's exactly what Magnus does. And this is definitely a problem, and with the rook already eyeing this and this already eyeing this, you need to be a little bit careful, because ideas like a4, a5, a6, or even like b4, b6 is always in the air, and you don't want to allow that. So c6 might have been a decent option for Magnus. After h4, you just go for b6, and you can go for this knight to f2, very nice, supporting that g4 square and g4 thrust. And if you go bishop to b7, just finally going for g4, pushing the queen back, queen goes to f7, you have bishop to c3, and let's say queen caps on a2, finally grabbing that. And you think that the queen is infiltrating, well, not really. Rook to a1, the queen is going to have to go back wherever you go. Just rook caps on a7, and the game will go on. Both players have equal chances. You have a queen which is trying to infiltrate, I have a rook which is already infiltrated, and the game will go on. It's anyone's game. But after f caps on g3, knight to c6 was played by Magnus, and now just comes b5. So he allows the thrust to happen with the tempo, and in this position you could go for a lot more moves. You can even try to go for this knight to a5, just get that knight to c4 maybe, and that would be a nuisance. But let's say bishop to c3 first, attacking this knight. And do you want to go for c4 directly, or you can also go for this bishop to a3, a switch and in between, a bishop to b2, and after this bishop goes back to f8, now again bishop to c3. And either you can go for that back and forth and go for a draw in this position, a perpetual. But after rook to b3, just play c6, and this is also fine. You have this knight to b2 asking for a trade. Most likely here c caps on b5 will be played, and the game will go on with the black king a little bit vulnerable. I mean, I would not say a lot, because there is some trouble with the rook already being here and the bishop already eyeing this with c caps on b5, because after this rook captures, you need to be a little bit careful. But everything else on the other hand is fine. But after b5 here, bishop to a3 check was played immediately by Magnus, and now just comes bishop to b2. This is the only move, that's why it's showing a brilliant move. That's not a brilliant move at all. He just bishop caps on b2, and now just comes rook captures, knight to e7 in this position. And again, you are asking Arjun the question of what really do you need to go for. Do you go for a normal line, play a normal variation, maybe hope for the best against me, the best endgame player of all time? Well, Arjun says, well, thank you very much, that's not gonna happen. I'll choose the sound of chaos. He goes for knight to c3. I mean, that's what I was hoping he would go for, because queen to g6, you just go for rook to b3, and already you see some trouble brewing. Even if you go for queenside castle in this position, just a4, and I mean that just looks too tempting to miss out. Here just d5, then just comes to this bishop captures. If f5 in this position, just b6, and I can already see this is looking very nice. If a captures, just e4. I mean, I'm just loving this position right now so much. It's a +1 position, and definitely would have been nice. But here Arjun decides to go for c4, so he chooses chaos in his own way. But now just comes rook to h8, putting some pressure on there. But I don't think Arjun would have mind in this position, because if you want to take the h2 pawn, you can just go ahead. I'm already putting some pressure here, and that's definitely going to work out. Here just d3 was played, now just comes even c6. But here in this position, knight to c3, now finally just developing that 9. And although you can capture this at any time, queen captures, rook captures, everything is fine here, but I have d4, and after king to c7, even d captures on e5. And this looks to be such chaotic position. Everything, I mean, you have four pawn islands, and this is not even move 20. This is absolutely crazy. And black, on the other hand, looks to be really nice, but engine is showing like, everything is fine. This is a draw, nothing is going to happen. But let's just say b6. And what's crazy to me is now you can actually go for a kingside castle, and the king and the rook are going to go here, and that rook is going to be under attack. So this is like, some trickery here happening, where you can just castle. It looks very weird, but once you play freestyle just long enough, you just get used to all of these things. Here, rook to h6 now just comes b captures, and after bishop captures, the game goes on. Both players have equal chances. You can go for the straight. Knight captures most likely, and even this captures. Then after rook captures, and pawn captures, you have created some disbalance in the position, and most likely this game would end in a draw. That's what would have or should have happened. But after knight to c6, here just b6 was played by Magnus. Magnus is still keeping his chances open, and saying that I'm not going to make any trades in this position. If you want to show me anything you have, anything, any of your cards, but let's just show it right now. It just bishop to f3 was played, first attacking the queen. Queen moves back to g6, and now the pressure doesn't exist. And in this position, just rook to d2. And I mean, getting the rook from that side is a little bit maybe inaccurate, and that's why here engine is not liking this. But just f5. King to b2 was played, queen to d6 now, and that queen to b4 idea is already there, but you're not gaining anything from it, are you? Because I can always go for king to c2 and defend the knight, so you don't have any follow-up. Here, queen to g2 was played, but now just comes even g5. We have g4 finally pushing the pawn, and the move that you want to play in this position is knight to g6. I mean, just get the knight out of there. What is it even doing there on the decent square? Hey, if g caps on f5, it looks like you're giving a free pawn. That's not the case, because now knight to h4, and all your problems are solved. Queen to f1. Now just comes knight caps on f3, queen captures, and in this position, a very nice cure. Here, you just go for this c caps on b5, opening up an attack towards the queen. Queen goes to g4. Don't make the mistake of capturing here, because this captures would come with the check. So what you want to do in this position is first give a check, and once that check has been delivered, the king moves. Only move. That's why it's a brilliant move, because you're defending the knight. And if b caps on c4, you just trade everything. Queen captures with the check has to be traded, and you get this structure where you can castle. The rook is protecting this, the bishop is already on an open file, and you need to be a little bit careful in this position about that pawn. This is also a hanging pawn, and your pawn structure is absolutely shattered. If this was a classical game, I would say that black is completely winning, but black also has a very bad structure, so it's just a draw. That's all there is to it. So this was the line where he could have gone for, and the game should have, if perfect play, ended in a draw. But the trouble for both of these players are they are less than almost 2 minutes on the clock, and they need to be a little bit careful. If f4 was played by Magnus, and that is supposed to be an accuracy, and hey, he takes advantage of that. E caps on f4, g captures was played, queen to f2. Now finally not having that bishop queen battery there, and Magnus, I don't know what got into him. He was playing just so well. He was playing really amazingly. First round he lost to Senderov. Definitely not a good start to the tournament. Next round he absolutely obliterated Fabiano Caruana. Good start to the tournament. Then he played Vincent Kema, beat him. Good start to a tournament. Then he got through his nemesis, Hans Niemann. Really a great start to the tournament. So 3 wins, 1 loss, absolutely fantastic. But then now in this position, he actually, I mean, the structure, once you look at it, there is just one move that you definitely don't want to play. You want to trade that, go ahead, be my guest, right? Just knight capture somewhere along the line is going to be very, very strong. But what you don't want to do is just complete the structure by going for c5 in this position, because that would be a bad thing, right? If c caps on b5, bishop caps on a8, you just trade everything, and after knight caps on b5, it seems to me that you're attacking the queen. But again, I have this check, which is annoying. King goes back to a1, you go for this knight to c6, and just develop that knight. Rook to b1, queen goes back to e7. You have ideas like d4 in the air, so definitely white is better, but it's not like this is a lost position. But after queen to f2, he goes for c5, and I just don't understand why would you go for c5 in this position, because the structure is, it's not even about the structure. It's about that you have just cemented everything in this position, and my knight and everything, your king is going to be stuck there, and you have light square weaknesses. And not only that, first I'm going to trade with the bishop captures, rook captures, which was played in the game. And now the trouble is I don't have to do anything. Everything that you had in this position is now completed. There won't be any movement through there. My king is completely safe. You just decide to lock in that, and that structure is absolutely amazing for me. And now I can just create some counterplay towards the queen side with the 2 passes that you've given me. Thank you very much. So that was the thing. But in this position, hey, a6 was played, or should have been played by Magnus, because a6 is the only move which opens up this, and then you can try to create some counterplay. After h5, you just go for this a captures, and if knight caps on b5, queen to f6, but now just comes queen to g2, hitting this, also supporting the push of that g4 square. And if e4 check in this position, opening up towards the queen, you have d4. And you must be thinking I'm going crazy here, covering all these games. I am, but not in this scenario. Hey, in this position, c caps on d4. And now the trouble for you is that this is definitely an option, but I have this. Now you cannot go for this, because then I just capture and your entire world collapses. But hey, queen to e5. If you try to go for, then just comes queen caps on e4, and again you don't have this because of this trade. So you can go for this trade, and after rook captures, maybe hope that after rook captures, your this endgame is going to be maybe hopefully savable, but that's not the case. And that's the thing what he realized after going for this king to c7, because now just rook d to e2. And how are you saving that pawn? And Arjun is now in a winning position against world number one, and he's gonna take advantage of this. Queen caps on d3 was played by Magnus, grabbing that pawn, because if he doesn't grab that, he doesn't have anything else, and Arjun be like, thank you very much for the central pawn, I'm just gonna take that. Knight to g6 now, only move. But hey, rook to d5, attack towards the queen. Queen to g3 was played, and although you don't want to trade this position because you are the one better, if you give the advantage right back to your opponent just because of a queen trade, that would be really stupid. So here queen to d2 was played, just putting in the pressure, and that's what you want to do, just mount on the pressure. But both of these players are just playing on increment. Magnus is down to his last 10 seconds, and Arjun Erigaisi is down to 23 seconds. A rook a to d8 was played, defending that pawn, but now just comes even h5. Where is the knight going? A knight to h4 may be a decent move, but what else can you do? If you go for this queen caps on g4, the thing is that you can sacrifice the piece for the 2 pawns, but it's not just the 2 pawns that you're going to lose. You're also going to be losing this with check, so not really worth it. So after h5, maybe what you were supposed to go for in this position is maybe knight to h4, but that's very difficult to find out. Why knight to h4? Because, well, you can also push the pawn, which Magnus played, but not right now, because here he went for this knight to f8, and after rook to g5, rook to g5 is a miss, because you were supposed to go for this knight to e4 in this position. That's why, hey, this is a miss. When that knight jumps in, you can then go for it, but it's just very difficult, because if you go for this knight to e4 and queen captures, then what do you do in this position? Well, the thing is that it's very difficult to spot with less minutes on the clock that you can go for this rook captures on c5, and the trouble is that is going to be a mate. If you capture this, then just comes this queen to a5 check, and you don't have this, you don't have this, you have to go for king to c, king to c8 in this position. Then just comes even knight to d6 check, and once king goes to here, now unfortunately for you, this is actually a checkmate, because the knight is covering this and this is covering that, and that was the idea. But after this rook to g5, he completely missed it and went for this rook to g5, but now just comes f3, and f3 is a miss as well. You were supposed to go for this knight to e6, and the game would have been a draw. And this is absolutely crazy how you're in a completely winning position, you have two outside passes, but just with this one move attacking this rook, this game is now a drop, because now knight to d5, just you don't want to play this, because then black gets back into the game. What you want to play is knight to e4, attack the queen, and obviously you cannot take now because the queen falls, but you have queen to f3 attacking this. But again, queen to d6 check, and where are you going? King to c8, then just comes even ideas like queen to d5 in this position, and queen to d5 is a brilliant move, only because of the fact that now for trouble for you is that this check actually picks this up, and well, that would be absolutely amazing. But king to b8 now solves your problems. But rook to g6, queen to g2 check, king to queen back to d2, you can just trade everything and maybe go for an endgame where you may be able to hold this, and this was the way. But after rook to g5, just f3 was played, and now Arjun is winning, and now he can go for this knight to e4, which he does find. And queen to g2 was played by Magnus, queen captures, f captures was played, but this pawn is going to be lost, and now you have two passes, and Arjun is not going to miss out on this opportunity. He's like, Sindorov got the chance, I need that chance to win this game against Magnus. Rook to g1, and now here knight to e6, but now just comes this rook to f5, knight to d4 was played, attacking that rook, and now comes this rook to f2, just going for captures. And in this position, Magnus realizes that there is no point in continuing this game. You're going to be down so many pawns, my king is weak, that knight is jumping in, and this is time to resign. That's why here on just move 34, the world number one Magnus Carlsen resigned the game, and Arjun got this spectacular feat where he defeated the world number one in 34 moves. And this has been a great year for Arjun. I mean, he beat Magnus in Norway just 2025. He beat Magnus in the last freestyle event, and now he beat Magnus in the finals of the freestyle event. That's absolutely spectacular. 3 wins against Magnus in a row. That's most people what they get in a lifetime. So definitely he would be happy. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with some of these amazing games. So stay tuned to the channel, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon. Thank you very much for watching.